Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1323.
Do what you love, learn how to make money at it. It's that simple.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from Warrensville, Ohio, Danny Baker. Hey, Danny, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am, yeah.
All right. 4.5-point harness on, I'm hoping today, right?
Yeah, we got full 5-point harness. Helmets on, strapped in, ready to rock.
All right, here we go. Danny Baker is a diehard automotive enthusiast. He's a driver, a racer, and a partner at Marshall Goldman Motor Sales in Cleveland, Ohio, where for over 40 years, they've offered pre-owned collectibles and high-end automobiles. He is just as passionate about business as he is collecting and racing his Ferrari 488 Challenge car. He competes in numerous motorsports events around the world for the last 4 years, including the Ferrari Challenge Series. When not on the track, Danny guides the day-to-day operations of Marshall Goldman Motor Sales and their sales and marketing efforts. He spent nearly 20 years in dealership sales and marketing, building strong and long-lasting relationships with his customers, his friends, and his team there. So, Danny, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little more about your career and your passion for automobiles and racing?
Well, Mark, you kind of hit all the highlights there. But, yeah, just basically what you said. I've been in the car business from a very, very young age. It's always what I've wanted to do. And it's been a good ride, you know. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, now we get to race the cars. Been doing that for the last 5 years. The business kind of takes me all over the world to car shows and concours and auctions and meet some amazing people, develop some great relationships. So it's great. A lot of fun.
You know, you're living the life of that old saying, race on Sunday, sell on Monday. So I'm a little jealous of you, Danny, and what you get to do. You get to be around cars all week with your job, and then you get to jump in the driver's seat and have some fun on the weekend. So kudos to you for figuring out the secret sauce to a happy life. As we continue on your journey, though, I always like to start with a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's instrumental in forming your life and the success that you've had. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires smoking here on Cars Yeah, since you like to drive fast. So, Danny, take the wheel.
Yeah, inspirational quote. That's pretty cool. Big quote I live by. My dad told me a long time ago. He said, there's money in everything. Do what you love and learn how to make money at it. And I've obviously taken that advice to heart. So I love cars, kind of figured out my path. Not exactly what I would have predicted, 10, 15 years ago, but it's worked out really well and getting to do everything I could ever dream of in life regarding cars and the car business.
Well, you're very fortunate to have a father that gave you that guidance, because that's what Cars Yeah is all about. I've talked to 1,322 people before you that have figured out that secret sauce to life. And so many people go through life doing what they don't like just so they can live for that Friday night and that weekend where they can do what you want to do. But again, you've figured it all out. So I think that's pretty darn cool. I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about a story that instigated that personal passion you have for cars. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew you were indeed going to be a car guy?
Not really. Not like a big aha or a big alarm going off in my head and realizing that this is exactly what I wanted to do. But definitely a gradual progression of a picture becoming more clear that cars were my world, my life, and something I was very, very passionate about from a young age. I mean, I'm into all kinds of different motorsports. I was obsessed with boats and four-wheelers and dirt bikes and lawnmowers and tractors and dump trucks and semi-trucks. I was into all kinds of stuff growing up. But the more time went on, the more I became passionate about specifically exotic and collector cars. It kind of resulted in the position I'm in at Marshall Goldman. It's really good. Definitely a gradual progression. My family, my dad, not really involved in cars, definitely not involved in the car business by any means. I'd say he would be a kind of a person that likes cars, but definitely not extremely passionate about them. Has an appreciation for them as much as anybody, but it's not his life. So that just kind of came on my own. It wasn't really in the family. It was just something I really really took to. My parents obviously nurtured that passion and allowed me to do what I wanted to do and fed it in a way, if you will, which I think is really important for parents, to allow their kid to kind of take their own path and kind of figure it out. I mentioned that my path is not a typical one. I've gone a lot of different directions to end up, where I am here. Still learning every day and figuring it out every day, but it's been good. It's a gradual progression. Keep going, getting deeper and deeper into cars every day, every year, and I look forward to the future.
I think some of us are just born with motor oil DNA as part of that chain, if you will. I've talked to a lot of people that aren't in families with cars. For me, my dad was into cars when I was very young, and then he kind of got out of it, but I just locked into it and stayed with it. So I always appreciate the fact that he bought that old 49 MGTC and let me ride around in that old car. And I know that's what started it for me back when I was about 5 or 6 years old. But yeah, it's just in our DNA, I think. What I want to do, though, now is talk about some of the roads you've driven down, maybe get our some grease and oil under our fingernails and talk about a big challenge or even a big failure that you faced along the way. Somehow, this could be in your life, could be in racing, could be in your business. It doesn't really matter. What matters more is the story, and then how did that situation help you gain even more momentum as you learned from that and move forward in your career and your business and your life?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think that is a very important point of any entrepreneur's life. I've made a lot of mistakes. Luckily, I've grown enough as a person to be able to look at those and realize that mistakes are great. Mistakes are very, very positive things. And anyone who says otherwise is just not that worldly or evolved. But what mistakes allow you to do is learn. If everything's perfect and going great, you can't learn anything. They say it about racing. If you're out in front and you're constantly out by yourself, not battling anybody, you're not going to pick up any skill. The racecraft is learned in the middle of the field, middle of the pack. So as far as racing and business and all of that, absolutely made many, many mistakes. I could talk about a lot of different specifics.
Yeah, I want to push you a little bit and have you walk us through one as an example. Yeah, just give me one as an example that kind of pushed you up against a wall, or maybe you actually went into a wall. And again, that kind of paints a little better light on this for someone who might be going through a similar situation. And then take that specific situation, tell us what that learning process is. And I love your comment. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. It's absolutely right. You're not pushing yourself hard enough. You got to get out of your comfort zone. Definitely on the track, having raced myself. If you don't push yourself, you're just going to be running in the back going, well, this is okay, but you're never going to learn anything. So kind of take us to one of those specific events.
I'd say the biggest mistake that I made in business, and I'll give you mistakes in racing too, but I'll give you the biggest mistake I made in business is more of a theme of growing too fast and diversifying too fast before I really truly knew what I was doing. Okay, I'll give you some more specific examples of that. I worked with Lamborghini at the dealership level for 4 years. I worked with Mercedes at the dealership level prior to that. I've opened internet departments for dealerships. I have a degree from the College of Automotive Management on dealership management and finance. I had by the time I was 21, 22 years old, I was buying and selling 3, 4, 500,000, sometimes $1 million car, making a lot of money compared to my peers, living a great life and thinking that I kind of knew everything. And I knew a lot, but I by no means knew everything and certainly don't today. So I had a falling out over commission with a big dealer group that I was the general sales manager for. It was a very difficult time. If you recall, it was 2000. It was kind of in the recession. It was a very, very difficult world.
08, 09, that period of time.
You know how that it was. I mean,
oh gosh, yeah.
Extremely difficult to sell new Lamborghinis. I was working for a franchised Lamborghini, Bentley, Rolls dealer, and I had figured out some unique strategies with Lamborghini, and I personally was doing extremely well. The rest of the staff wasn't, and the ownership group was putting a lot of pressure on me with pay plan adjustment and changes, and I'd hit a bogey and they'd change it. So I went out on my own, right? We had a falling out. They didn't want to pay me what I thought I was worth, and we had a falling out. We went our own ways, which is fine. It was good. I never fault anybody for going out on their own and trying to do their own things. I just question, is it bettering yourself? You always want to make sure that if you're making a change in your career path, that you're actually bettering yourself, not just that you think you are. but truly, are you truly putting yourself in a better position? So I felt I was, and I went out and I started Exotic Motors Midwest. And right out of the gate, I bought and sold a lot of cars. Within 2 years, I went from having, 2 or 3 cars in stock to 60. And then within 4 or 5 years, I got up to 80, 90 cars in inventory. At one point, I had 4 salespeople and a finance manager and administrative staff. And then I got into the service business. Well, if you recall from my history, I didn't know anything about service. I had never worked in service. But I thought that it was a necessary part of the business that I'd be able to figure out. So I started the service business at Exotic Motors Midwest, mainly to support my retail efforts. And I just simply didn't know what I was doing. And, lost a lot of money in it. Kept customers happy. I always have had, in my belief, a good reputation, an honest reputation, and taking good care of customers. It was just the service business really didn't make that much money. And so I got into that, and then I got into a limo, for a short period of time. I got into the limo business, and I tried to get into financing and leasing, and all the while still selling a lot of cars and producing a lot of revenue, but I really truly wasn't maximizing profit in my core competency, which was selling cars. And so hindsight is 2020. I look back on those experiences and say, what could I have done differently? Well, what I could have done differently probably would have been the right approach is stick to the core competency. My core competency is sales. I should have stick to just selling cars and doing as good as I possibly could with that before diversifying into service. And I ended up not going anywhere with the leasing business or the limo business. If I would have just stuck to that, it would have been great. Fast forward, here we are at Marshall Goldman. My position is, general sales manager, kind of chief operating officer of the business. And that's what I do. I manage the sales team and the marketing efforts and buy and sell inventory. I believe I'm in my perfect place, and we're doing very, very well. Back to focus on my core competency. At the same time, ironically, my service business, I was forced to learn the service business inside and out. And I still own a service business in St. Louis. We've rebranded it as Exotic Motors Auto Group. And we work on high-end Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghinis, and we're by far, by a long shot, the very best place in the state of Missouri, in the Midwest, to service your late model or even vintage Ferrari. That's kind of our focus there. Same with Lamborghini. And I also have a trucking business, which, if you look at it as support, the service business and trucking business kind of support my sales operation. But to summarize, the mistake was diversifying too quickly, growing too quickly. And if I would have taken my time and focused on nothing but sales for at least 10 years, I'd be in a lot better position. But I learned that lesson, never going to forget it. And it's definitely made me a lot better business person as of today.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking us to what was a painful thing, but it's an incredibly valuable lesson you just shared here. Talk about dropping gold nuggets for those of us that were listening to pick these up. And I've talked to so many people that have done exactly the same thing. I have a good friend who I lost a few years ago that had a hugely successful business. He thought, I'm so smart, I can do anything. And he launched into 2 other businesses and just lost his shorts. And he went,
amazing how that happened.
Why did I do that? Why didn't I just stay with what I knew so well? And,
right.
It's a really, really valuable lesson. So, or better yet, if you're in a position to afford it, hire somebody who knows what they're doing, let them do the job, and then they can teach you what they know as well. So thanks for taking us there. I think
that's a great point. Yeah. And there's many entrepreneurs that have diversified and become really successful with it. I'm not saying it can't be done. It absolutely can be done. And in theory, the plan that I, put together made a lot of sense. It just, I should have pushed the sales element of it a little farther before branching out. But
it's hard. Again, it's hard. You want to grow. You're an aggressive guy. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Great story. Thank you for sharing that. Let's have a little bit of fun though here and talk about your first really special vehicle, the first car that you got that had great meaning for you. This could be a street car. Maybe it's the first time you jumped in a race car, and maybe share a memory or two about that ride.
Well, there's been a lot of cool cars. I can tell you, even though I said my dad wasn't really into cars, he had one car that was kind of cool. He had a 94 Dodge Viper. It was the first one in the state of Missouri and all that. We spent a little time in it. And it wasn't something he was crazy obsessed with, but he just, we had fun on Saturdays in it. And that's where I kind of learned to drive a 6-speed. I mentioned I grew up around equipment and tractors and all that, and just could kind of figure out how to drive anything. But I spent a lot of time playing with that car, and in high school and after high school. And then he eventually sold and bought one back. So that was a cool car, 94 Dodge Viper, just a real raw car. But the first car that I bought that was really memorable, I was working at Lamborghini Houston right out of college, had a couple of really big months, and I bought an '03 turbo, black on black, manual transmission. So it'd be a 996 generation chassis. That would be 2006. So it's 3 years old. So still a pretty modern car. The 997s had not come out. It was kind of like it was a great car. And I had that for a year or so, and I really loved it. And there's something about the 996 chassis that have a distinct smell. They say the smell is the sense strongest tied to memory. And so every time I get into a 996, no matter what it is, I always just, that smell hits my nose and it instantly brings me back to that time. And I was single and I had that car and I was having a lot of fun with it. And they're still, to this day, great little cars for the money. 996s are coming back. It's kind of an as a forgotten chassis, but great little car. I've gone on to own many, many, many special cars. I owned the Carbon Enzo for about 2.5 years. I flew it over from Europe. I showed that car at the Quail in 2016, had it all over California, played with it over here for about a year, shipped it back to Europe and played with it there for about a year. That was a really, really cool car. I bought and sold many Enzos, bought and sold many Koenigsegg's, a lot of 993 product Porsches, 997s. We have a Carrera GT, phenomenal cars, one of the greatest cars in history. I've had every modern Ferrari you can dream of. F12 TDF. I've got a Pista Pelotti that'll be here very soon. Got a Monza coming. I can go on for days.
No doubt. Yeah, having played on you guys' website, lots of cool cars. But the 996, kind of, unfortunately, that was the era of Porsche where they were having some struggles and they were trying to combine the Boxster styling with the 911 styling. And I think that's why they've kind of been put to the side. But a lot of people are realizing now that it's an excellent car as an entry-level Porsche to get into a more modern Porsche, and a really, really nice car for the money because the prices are still in a comfortable position for people to jump into one of those cars and have some fun. So nicely done. How about seller's remorse? Now, of course, you're in the car business, so you've sold lots of cars. I'm more concerned with a car that you owned, that you sold, that you really wish you'd kept. And let's keep the monetary part out of this because that's what your business is. Let's just talk about a car you let go that still kind of tugs onto your heart.
There have been few. Yeah, take the monetary element out of it. '08 CLK 63 Black Series.
Okay.
That is one of my favorite cars in history. I've driven everything and very fortunate, very blessed to be able to do that. But I almost end up having more fun in a car that doesn't cost $1 million or $2 million because of the intimidation factor. I can handle the car, not worried about that. It's just the other people. A rock gets thrown up, chips a glass or cracks a fender, or somebody's sideswiped or some issue, somebody's next to you with their camera phone and taking pictures. And, that's all cool. It's great. But sometimes for me, all the time, I don't want to be seen. I just want to go out and have fun in the car by myself. I certainly don't think I have any ego about it. And so having like an '08 CLK 63 Black Series, I think that's such a beautiful shape. I believe it's by far the best V8 motor, naturally aspirated motor ever to be made. And I've had a bunch of them. Probably had 30 of them over the years. All the way.
Gosh.
Every color you can imagine. They're all 4 colors. But I had one of like 3,000 miles 2 years ago. I told myself I'd never sell it. I had it like a year and a half or 2 years. And then I ended up selling it to fund racing in Ferrari Challenge, which is crazy. But yeah, that was a cool one. And I'll have another one. I'm in the business. Those cars really haven't moved around a lot in value. At some point I'll have another one. And that's another thing that I think it's important for car guys to realize, especially car guys that are entrepreneurs. Guys, there's always another car. There's always another car. There's always another deal. And if the car goes up to 120,000 from 70, at the point you have the 120, don't worry about it. And if you have an opportunity to sell a car and invest back in yourself, you truly believe in yourself and you're doing it for all the right reasons,
Yeah.
Make that investment in yourself. Do it every time. Don't second guess it. Don't worry about the car. There will always be another car. Always invest in yourself first. And
Nice.
that's kind of where I am.
It's great advice. I love it. Hey, I sold a very special car to me to invest in my son, put him through college, and would never look back. But at the time, all my friends were like, how could you let that car go? But I went, well, you know what? There'll be another one. Or this car will be available again sometime. So
well,
I
heard a great.
Take care of my
I agree
kids.
with you. I heard a great quote by a guy. I was standing at a Mecum auction, and there was a 65 Shelby GT 350 going across the block. 65 is a real valuable car. 350,000. I had a 66, by the way, for a while. They're amazing. Another one of my favorite cars. But cars going across the block, and this guy's talking to his buddy. I kind of overheard him, and he said something to the effect of, I can't believe that car was only $6,000 back when I was in high school or something like that. And the car ran across the block, and it sold, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was in the mid 300s. It was a lot of money. The guy looked at his buddy and said, I can't believe you bought that. You just told me that car was like $6,000 when you were in high school. And he looked back at me and said, look, when I was in high school, I didn't have $6,000. But today I have 350,000. And I still want that car.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, you sometimes the timing's not right, but never lose sight of that car you truly love, and never be afraid to invest in yourself. And there'll always be another car.
Exactly. Great advice, my friend. Hey, I would love for you to talk a little bit more about Marshall Goldman Motor Sales, what you guys have there so that my listeners can look you up. Of course, I'll put a link to your website on your show notes page. But tell me what has you excited and fired up these days about Marshall Goldman Motor Sales.
Yeah, Marshall Goldman Motor Sales, to me, is one of those amazing, American success stories and classic businesses. You mentioned that you were president of
Griot's Garage.
Griot's Garage.
Yeah.
And I think very fondly of that business, very classy operation in the detail supplies and garage products business. I bought stuff from there, got the catalog all the time, for many, many years, and think very highly of that business. I kind of look at Marshall Goldman the same way. I've been friends with the Goldman family for 10 years. A couple facts about Marshall Goldman. We are by far the largest exotic and luxury dealership, independent exotic luxury dealership in North America. What does that mean? That means for non-franchise dealerships, we have more inventory than any dealership out there. Now, there are dealerships that may have a few more cars showing on their website, but here's the big difference. We don't consign any cars. We own every single car, and the titles are in the building. Most exotic and luxury dealerships, mine included when I was in the business for myself, consign a lot of those cars. And there's nothing wrong with that, but here at Marshall Goldman, we own everything, and it makes it a lot easier to do a deal. So we have, at any given time, 250, 270 cars on the ground. We specialize in late model and what I call mid-year cars, mid-year car being like a 80s, 90s, Porsche, Ferrari, whatnot. And then we have a lot of modern stuff too. So I joined the team in early February. We'd worked a deal for about 6 months to a year to merge the sales operation of my prior business, Exotic Motors Midwest, into Marshall Goldman. And that's just what we did. So in St. Louis, Missouri, back where my other business is, there's no more sales. It's only service. We rebranded it as Exotic Motors Auto Group, and I still own it. And I office in Cleveland 4 or 5 days a week. And we run Marshall Goldman. We have plans to grow the business even more. And I think the biggest thing that we want to accomplish, my goal, is to get more word out, to get more exposure. A lot of people know Marshall Goldman from the DuPont registry ads. And always have the big red 2-page spread with all kinds of different cars. That was always something that when I wasn't, before I became a partner here, I really thought that was really cool. And a lot of people just have no idea how big this facility is. So when you look at the pictures, I always used to think they photoshopped the length of the building. It was so long. It's like, there's no way they can have all those cars. Well, we really do. And the building is really that long. And it's cool. So we invite anybody that's into cars to come on by. We have 3 big buildings filled with cars, just about anything you can ever think of here in Cleveland. And we're looking for exposure. You asked what our goals are. Yeah, the goals are to get the word out more and get more internet exposure. And we do a really nice email weekly with inventory highlights. We do a really nice newsletter. We have some great guys on staff, young, passionate car guys that are out there going to concours and auctions and shows with professional writing abilities, coming back, writing articles, which I believe are pretty interesting and relevant to the business and the industry, the car collecting industry, and coming back and writing about that stuff and sending it out on our newsletter. So that's really cool.
Very cool. I'll make sure I put a link to marshallgoldman.com on Danny's show notes page here on the Cars Yeah website, so you can go and have some fun like I have on their website and dream about which of those cars, or a bunch of them, would like to be parked in your garage. Check them out. I think you'll have a grand time. Well, Danny, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. Hey, Cars Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Covercraft. I've protected my vehicles with their products for decades. Want to keep your vehicle's interior looking new? It's easy with Covercraft seat covers. They'll protect your seats from the daily abuse of pets, children, weekend adventures, and even those everyday spills. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. All Covercraft seat covers are easy on, easy off design that are machine washable. You can choose from many fabric options, colors, and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicles. Their seat gloves are semi-custom fit for cars and trucks, and their seat savers, a favorite of mine, are custom tailored to fit your seats like a glove. Work truck seat covers are tough, durable, denim weight fabric. It's like putting a pair of rugged jeans on your truck's seats. Want to stay warm? Covercraft also offers seat heaters. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark at Cars Yeah sent you. That's covercraft.com. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting. Okay, Danny, we are back, and I have a bit of an introspective question for you. If you were a vehicle, if you were manifested as a car, not what you want to be, but how you perceive yourself as a vehicle, what kind of car would Danny be and why?
That is such a hard and probably fun question. And I read it in the show notes. I didn't have any answer that immediately came to my mind. But if I was a car, I would not be a sports car. And the reason why
that's interesting.
Is I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I like to be fairly diverse and believe I have a lot of depth in my character and can accomplish many, many unique things. Whereas a sports car is great in a straight line, great in a curvy track, probably looks really sexy and exotic, but can't haul around a family of 4 kids and a dog and strollers and all that kind of stuff.
There you go.
And may not be the most comfortable thing to drive through the mountains in the snow. So I don't know. If I was a car, I would be an SUV. I would be a pretty classy SUV that would be very capable. I happen to love G-Wagons. I don't know if that would be it, but I'd be some type of an SUV.
Sounds good. Well, I know you got kids and a family, so
that's right.
Nicely done, Danny. Nicely done. Well, we are entering the last lap, and you've been there many times. I'm going to fire off a series of questions when that white flag comes out and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
The same thing I told you earlier. Do what you love, learn how to make money at it. If you love cars and you're very passionate about cars and you feel that that's an industry you want to go after it. I don't care what your skill set or mindset or background is. There are many, many divisions of the car business, from sales and service and finance and marketing and transport and racing and motorsports. There are many, many, many different divisions to get into. We need more females in the car business. Females actually have a massive edge in the car business. And so, yeah, best advice, if you want to be in the car business, get into it, find a mentor, read, surround yourself with it, show up to events, and make it happen.
Absolutely. And I'll remind our listeners, there's 1,300 plus people who've been on this show before, Danny, who are in the car business. Go back and listen to some of those shows and glean some information. And I bet you pretty much all those folks, if you reached out to them, would be happy to help give you some guidance there. How about a personal habit that you have that you believe has contributed to your successes over the years?
Sure. I'll give you a real quick one. iPhone. You know, people used to say, write everything down. Why? I'm sitting right here in our conference room all by myself. I've got a yellow legal notepad, and I write everything down on that. But in my iPhone, I have under the notes, I have a note that says things. If you know me really well, I'm constantly typing notes on my phone, basically just quick little reminders of things to do. And I try and review that a few times during the day and check them off my list. Really simple, really easy. You can write it on a notepad. You can write it in your phone. You can do a combination like I do. Get in the habit of writing things down. It's a very professional thing to do, especially when you're visiting with somebody that you're looking to get something from or sell something to. Be prepared with a pen and a paper. It's a respect thing that the person you're visiting with is so important that you're going to write down what they have to say because it means that much to you. And then also in your notes, follow up. If you tell somebody, I'm going to call you tomorrow afternoon, actually do it. Not because you have to, but because you said you would. And that, your word means a lot. That's my advice.
Yeah, those notes are great. I use the same thing. The other thing I use, because I do sit in front of my desktop computer all day, is there's a little on my Apple is a little thing called Stickies, which is the same thing.
Same thing. I've used that before too. Yeah, it's
awesome. That's the first thing I look at every morning. I have my daily goals I put in there, my weekly goals, follow-ups, things like that. That way you don't have to remember anything. I think it was Einstein that said, I write everything down so I don't have to remember it. And that guy was pretty smart from last I checked. So
exactly.
How about a resource? Is there a resource you'd like to share with our listeners that you find really exceptional?
So many.
I know. That's why I always just ask for one, because there's a lot out there. But here's the way I usually phrase it: is a go-to that you tend to look at all the time. Now, you just mentioned one with your notes.
I can tag a bunch of business. So I'll give you a couple real quick. New Cars and Industry News, Car Buzz. I really like that app. I know those guys. We've done some cool stuff together. I happen to think very fondly of Car Buzz. It's a nice platform they serve up the information on, an iPhone app. I look at it multiple times a day, and I'm typically in a conversation of people and to know about something that's coming out first. I'm constantly tracking what's going on with Ferrari and Porsche and Mercedes. And I didn't mention, but I'm in the Mercedes Project One group. I'm getting that car, and I'm constantly monitoring the development, all that with the chassis. For collector cars, bring a trailer. I think Howard Swig and those guys do an amazing job. Happy to plug their business. I think that platform is awesome. They've gotten a lot of legs. And what I call the mid-year cars, 80s, 90s, they're killing it. They do such a nice job. So I like them. That's another resource. I can go on and on. Hammer Price is a great little app for auctions. And,
Well, you're mentioning many people that have been guests here on the show. Randy Nonnenberg, Bring a Trailer. The other half of Bring a Trailer was a guest on the show very early. In fact, on my show is when he launched their new auctions, which has been a huge success. So that was pretty cool. Car Buzz, Bring a Trailer, Hammer Price, just a few of great resources for our car people. Now, if I could arrange for you to sit down and have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would that be?
That's a great question. Oh, man. I don't know that they would be one of, nothing against Carroll Shelby, Henry Ford, all those guys. They're pretty good at one big thing. There's a lot of other people in the industry. I'd be more interested to speak to somebody like a Roger Penske, who's been involved in the racing side and the dealership side and the finance side and the investment side. There's quite a few others there. I tell you, some of the smartest minds in the car business right now, I think, for the collector car side, are with the auctions. RM Auctions, Rob Myers, fascinating guy. Alexander Weaver, consider him a very good friend. He's absolutely brilliant. One of the best young minds in collector cars. David Swig, again, Howard's brother with RM, is amazing.
Yep.
There's a bunch of other guys over there, Shelby and Matt, and I'm losing track of some of their other names. But
there's a lot of great
Barney,
folks in that industry that many of those you've named have been guests here.
They just have access to so much data and so many relationships and collections that I don't see on a day-to-day basis, and the public doesn't see either. You know, they have amazing. Those guys are a lot of fun to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. Many of them have been guests here on Cars Yeah, so go back, listeners, and you can listen to some wonderful talks I've had with some of those geniuses in the car business. Now, how about a book, Danny? Is there a book you've read that you think our listeners would enjoy reading?
So there's so many. It's the simple books. It's the real simple books that have such an impact for me, like some of the Dale Carnegie stuff and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there's a lot of classics that, you know, people recommend, but especially if you don't read a lot. And I go through years where I commit to reading like a book a month or 2 or 3 books a month. And, you know, when I first started getting into reading, it was like, you know, a book a year. But
have you read Carl Sewell's Customers for Life?
I have. I've read an enormous amount of books on sales and psychology and all that kind of stuff. But it's the real simple things that I think make the biggest and most profound impact. And it's also important to read them at the right time. You know, I'm big on self-knowledge, self-help, arming yourself with knowledge, but you got to commit to it. You got to make a decision. If in college, high school, you know, I was forced to read all these books and I don't really remember much about them because I was too focused on wanting to read about cars, all the car magazines. That's what I was passionate about at the time. But, you know, let you go down life path and realize that you want to get better. At that time, it makes sense to start reading some great books about your craft, polishing your craft, whether that's the sales or finance or service or just entrepreneurship in general.
There you go. I'll remind our listeners, there's a great place on the Cars Yeah website called Guest Recommended Books, where all my guest recommended books are listed there. I've made it really easy for one click to go by. There is way over 1,000, probably 1,500 books that are listed now from my past guests who've made recommendations, just like Danny with Dale Carnegie's book, of course, How to Make Friends and Influence People, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book I read a long time ago and gave copies to my kids when they went off to college. So check it out. And you can find all the other resources Danny has shared on his very own Cars Yeah show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Danny Baker, and that will pop right up. All right, Danny, we're up to the checkered flag, and this last question could be a bit of a doozy, especially for a guy like you that has and loves a lot of cars. And here it is. I'm going to buy you one very cool collector car today, but there are some rules to this game that make it a bit of a challenge, especially for a guy like you. You can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys with, so that little trick is off the table, which you know oh so well. You have to drive it. No garage queens allowed here, so if you're going to pick a Koenigsegg or a Pagani or some kind of crazy car like that, I want to see it on the road. Do not worry about rock chips. I call them memory marks or anything else. But here's the tip of the spear that makes this question so hard for a guy like you. It is the only collector car you can park in your garage. That means all the others go away. It's the only one you can have. So what are you going to buy? Or what am I going to buy you, I should say?
Carrera GT.
There you go. Well, nice choice.
Very common answer, but it's that good. And I heard it saying, like, why did, you know, everybody has a white T-shirt, but it's still a good look. Everybody has a black T-shirt, but it's still a good look. There's a lot of Carrera GTs out there, and, you know, 1,200 or so cars. It's by far the greatest Porsche in history in my book. An enormous amount of fun to drive, and I truly think I'd drive that car for the rest of my life and not get tired of it. They're just fantastic.
Awesome. What color would you like yours to be, just so I get you the right one?
Anything but GT silver. I like them in yellow, black, red.
Yeah. There you go. There was one at the Esoteric Car Show I was at last weekend in Ohio. They had their open house, and they invited me to be their MC there, and I got to interview a lot of people. And there was a gentleman there that had one. He also had
a silver 918.
Silver 9. I think you know the guy.
He also had the Carrera GT, and we sold him the 918.
Okay. Well, there you go. He also had a Senna, McLaren Senna, a P1, and a bunch of other cars. Who is that guy? Well, we won't mention his name here, but yeah, I was blown away. He brought like 5 or 6 cars to that event. Absolutely incredible. Let me sit in the P1.
First class family. Very, very, very nice people. We're very happy to have their business and think very highly of them and their collection. They're building an amazing collection.
I would bet. No kidding. Well, Danny, you've taken us on a great ride today. Thank you for sharing your stories and for joining me here on Cars Yeah. Could you offer us one little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you blast off into the sunset in that Porsche Carrera GT?
I guess this whole theme of the call today, do what you love, learn how to make money at it. It's that simple.
Yep, it's that simple. And what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and Marshall Goldman Motor Sales?
For me, it's at Danny K. Baker on Instagram. That's my Instagram. I try and post about cars and stuff like that. Probably not near as much as I should, but just simply busy. For Marshall Goldman, it's at Marshall Goldman on Instagram. But those are the greatest places to follow along. We're especially on the Marshall Goldman channel. We're posting some really cool, interesting stuff multiple times a day. We appreciate you following along. Like us, comment, share. It all helps. It's all good. We appreciate the feedback.
Also, I'll put a link to Danny's efforts on the Ferrari Challenge on his show notes page, so you can learn more about him and follow him along as he races that Ferrari in the Challenge Series. Absolutely brilliant. I know we didn't get to talk about that very much, but you can follow him there as well. Again, you can find everything on Danny's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Hey, Danny, thanks for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, your passion, and for sharing your experiences with Cars Yeah listeners. Until you and I talk again, or I see you at the track, I'll see you down the road.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.